Welcome to Shift Report, the podcast brought to you by EMcentric.com. EMcentric is the go-to information and resources hub designed exclusively for the emergency medicine community. On each episode of Shift Report, we host key leaders from the field who share their insights and experience from inside the world of emergency medicine. Our goal is to inform you, to encourage you to use what you learn to improve your practice and to improve yourself. Today, we welcome Patrick O'Malley. Dr. O'Malley practices in South Carolina, but through his other ventures has influence and reach around the country. He received his medical degree from East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina, and trained in emergency medicine at what was then Carolina's Medical Center. Today, we'll speak with Patrick about his work. Welcome, Pat.
Hey, Till, thank you so much for having me.
And thanks for taking the time to share some of your insights. You have of clinical and broader experience that I think emergency physicians and others within the emergency medicine community can learn a great deal from. So first, what led you to emergency medicine?
That's a very for me to answer. So flashback to probably 1996, graduating from college, knowing that I wanted to go into med school, but didn't have the MCAT scores and the some of the other things that I needed to be able to be a more competitive applicant. So I'd gotten some recommendations to go and get a CNA or a certified nursing assistant license at the local community college. So I went through that little program and then applied for a nurse aide or tech job in the emergency department in Charlotte at Carolina's Medical Center, not knowing at all whatsoever that it was one of the premier teaching hospitals for emergency medicine, with just an incredible emergency medicine residency program and exposure. So little naive me with long curly hair and an earring trying to get into medical school. So I started working in the emergency department there and literally was blown away. From the first time I stepped into the trauma room, assisting and taking care of really sick patients, I knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I was really fortunate to have exposure to that early on before going into medical school. And it really helped shape my future and, just giving me exposure to the whole field of emergency medicine at such an early stage.
That's a great story, and I think many of our colleagues have some version of that where they had an experience. Maybe they didn't do the classics. They found a different pathway, and I think as we come across people that are in the situation you were in, I think we need to recognize that those people are really people we're also teaching beyond our residents and our medical students, and that's
Absolutely. And, I was so fortunate to have that group of people who brought me in under their wing. They knew what I was trying to do, and they were so incredibly supportive. And I'm, still to this day, as those people, because I was able to come back and do residency in Charlotte as well. But those are people who made a really lasting impact on me. And I think it underscores the importance of mentorship and bringing people in and helping guiding them, answering questions, being patient, and helping them through their journey early stage, either before medical school or PA school or nurse practitioner school, whatever it is they're trying to get into.
So who were a few of the key mentors you had, and tell us a bit about what they did for you and how they've impacted your life?
Yeah, well, the first, well, there's probably three or four, all of whom were attendings in Charlotte. Some of them are still there. Parker Hayes has to be probably one of the top. Um, he was a young attending when I was working as a tech. He became the medical student director for the emergency department, and then later residency director when I came back through. And I just told the story the other day to someone else about seeing him as a young new father intubating a very critically ill child on it was in April. It was on Easter Sunday, and I remember seeing that and how much that impacted him and how calm he was in the midst of that storm. and being a new father and just the impact that that had on him. And that was somebody that I was like, wow, that is, that it's just an incredible skill set to be able to have, to remain calm in the middle of that type of a storm. And Parker and I have maintained a friendship and recently reconnected, kind of on the eve of his clinical career, and now he's launching some new ventures, and it's really been fun to maintain that 25-year relationship, with somebody who impacted me so critically early in my career. And then Jeff Klein, who most of us probably are familiar with through his work with pulmonary embolism, coagulation. Actually worked in his lab as a research assistant. And my role, this is when I was working as a nurse aide, I was volunteering in his lab just to get some additional experience to go on my CV. But I used to crush up frozen rat hearts after doing some kind of experiment that only Jeff would be able to come up with and understand. And then when I came back as a resident, he was my mentor. So I got to do some research projects with Jeff and with him. Andrew Asimos, who was the kind of the head emergency neurology stroke guru in Charlotte. There was one thing that he would do with every single one of us as a resident, and that still to this day, every single patient that I see in the emergency department, I followed Andrew Asimos's example for how to interview a patient and how to be able to keep track of 3, 4, and 5 patients, simultaneously in my head. So, it's really funny looking back now that I'm almost 50 years old, looking back at just this chance encounter of becoming a tech in the emergency department at such a wonderful place with such wonderful people, and just the blessing of being able to go back there, to be able to train and go through residency there. And I think for me, it also underscores the importance of relationships for any of us who are going through, medical school and residency. Maintain those relationships. Because once you get out in private or community practice, it's not the same. It's really isolating, and it can be a very lonely experience. And nurturing those relationships with the people who you knew earlier in your career, maintain those relationships because it's valuable and it's meaningful to them to hear from us, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. But it's also meaningful to us, because they know you. They knew you when, early on, and it's really important to keep those relationships.
That's great advice. Have practiced very actively for
Mhm.
quite a while now, and have also developed a series of entrepreneurial interests that
Mhm.
are clinically focused and focused on helping other clinicians,
Mhm.
both clinically and then in other areas,
Yeah.
that are that you're putting together into an interesting set of ventures,
Mhm.
that have created some notoriety and LinkedIn and other connections. Tell us a bit about some of the tools you're working on and the ventures you're working on.
Sure. Yeah, so I think I've always had a little bit of a kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, having grown up in a family of traveling clothes salesmen with my dad and, uncles and grandfathers, all who have been kind of in the business side of it. So I've kind of always grown up around that. Job I really ever had was making tie-dye t-shirts in my basement when I was in high school. And yeah, that was kind of like the first thing that I ever did. And I really enjoyed the creative process and selling things and the business side of it. Um, and then shortly after finishing residency, being in community practice, I developed a wound irrigation device with a team of other people, and we sold it to a company. And so that's out and available for for people to use. And just the fact that you create something is really a rewarding experience. And then that it is being utilized for other clinicians to be able to hopefully make their life a little bit easier with the end result of providing better patient care. Um, the medical device stuff is tough. It's a really, really hard process to go through. It's very time consuming, it's long, potentially very expensive, and there's no, guarantees of success at all whatsoever. So after kind of putting that aside, looking for something else for myself to get involved with, my main clinical passion has always been laceration management. And that started from my first week as an intern center. We had a laceration course, and it was a 5 day course where we got from Dr. Parker Hayes and Matt Sullivan. They put together this really phenomenal opportunity for us to be able to get all the experience or get all the knowledge that we need so that we could practice more independently from day one, and function at a higher level. So that always stuck with me. And 3 years ago, I said, you know what, this would be a lot of fun for me to do. I love doing it, and let's kind of look into that and explore it. So I had reached out to Matt and Park, and they said, hey man, go at it. That'd be fantastic. So I put this course together and just started selling it on my own, and then um, EB Medicine, who a lot of you are probably familiar with, who's been a longtime provider of just the highest quality emergency medicine CME. And I've bounced ideas around with them for a long time, and we decided to kind of join forces and introduce the laceration course. Went through, revamped it, and really just created a comprehensive resource for people not only in the emergency department but also in the urgent care setting, so that they could have the clinical education, hopefully gain the confidence to be able to manage these patients in the urgent care setting so that they don't have to send those patients to the emergency department. So the last 2 years, I've worked very closely with EB Medicine, and just a couple months ago, we launched the Abscess course. So it's really been just a remarkable journey on, kind of a combination of clinical expertise and entrepreneurial drive to bring something together that, of course, it benefits, um, from a financial perspective. That's great. But, when you get the emails or you meet somebody at a conference who's gone through my course and they're like, oh my gosh, I recognize your voice. You're the laceration guy. I mean, it's, I've gotten more chill bumps from, from hearing that feedback, and knowing that you have given somebody the confidence to be able to do something that they haven't been able to do previously is just incredibly rewarding from a professional perspective. So it's just been a great experience all around. I love doing this.
It's an interesting business angle, and you mentioned the urgent care environment, and I
Hmm.
think those of us who are in the emergency department environment, some understand the urgent care environment. It's obviously different system to system and locale to locale,
Hmm.
but there are probably varying opinions of the urgent care environment among our colleagues, as
Hmm.
I'm sure you've run across. Um, what's your impression of how the urgent care environment can be best utilized, and tell us about your relationship within that particular environment.
Would love to. Yeah, it's been a really interesting couple of years. The urgent care community, I kind of equate it to what emergency medicine was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Um, Nobody really knew how to define it. And what is it? Well, it's family medicine, it's emergency medicine, it's pediatrics, it's internal, it's a lot like emergency medicine. And the urgent care community is just an incredibly welcoming, open, fun, lighthearted community that works incredibly hard, from a leadership perspective with the Urgent Care Association and some of the regional urgent care organizations that are out there. So when I first started working on the laceration course, I connected with a physician named Tracy Davidoff and kind of shared with her what I was doing with the laceration. Wow, we really need to talk. So encouraged me to participate, and actually got elected as a board member for the College of Urgent Care Medicine, or CUCM, which is kind of the clinical arm of the Urgent Care Association. So I started going to meetings and really just opening my eyes to the whole urgent care world, and going, being on conference calls, really learning about the kind of inner workings of the urgent care world. Um, and it's been fascinating. And the urgent care really plays just a major role in our country. So just some quick facts here. There's 14,000 urgent care clinics in the country. let's say if they're seeing on average 30 patients a day, I mean, you do the math real quick and, we're looking at, 100 million clinical visits every single year. There was a LinkedIn article a couple years ago that I saw, a day without the ER. And we all know what would happen there. Chaos, pandemonium, and, things that we don't want to see. But imagine what would happen if there's a day without urgent care. The thought sends chills down my spine. If I'm working in a emergency department and there's 3 or 4 urgent cares within a mile or 2, cares aren't there, we're going to get killed. So really learning about the role of urgent care for urgent healthcare needs, primary care in a lot of cases. Whenever you call a primary care office, what's the answer? Go to the ER. Well, now fortunately we have this other stopgap with the role that urgent care medicine plays. So I think that we need to partner with urgent care. We need to work together to find solutions to some of the healthcare problems that our country is facing. Because urgent care, if we didn't have urgent care during COVID, complete collapse of the healthcare system, complete collapse. And urgent care really stepped up to the plate with COVID testing so that the emergency departments could take care of sicker patients. So I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude. Now, I think that there's some things that can be done better, and the Urgent Care Association and the CUCM are working on that stuff. We want to be defined as our own specialty, so that we do have a better definition of what urgent care medicine is and what that means. And we've got a really amazing group of people, all the way from the leadership, Llewellyn Horwitz, um, Scott Pricey, who is the Urgent Care Association president, Joe Toscano, who's an emergency physician, who's on the board. All these people are working really hard to better define what the specialty is, and hopefully get us a seat at the table with the AMA, so that we can, standardize things and work on education and making sure that every patient who comes into urgent care is getting high quality, standardized patient care.
Yeah, you make great points about partnership, and you've delved into that
Hmm.
or to learn about it,
Oh yeah.
as opposed to calling them just an urgent care center,
Hmm.
which I think is commonly done. But I think it is
Yeah.
certainly an important part of the healthcare
So,
ecosystem.
one thing I'll share with you, just a couple months ago was I think the 1st of May. A good friend of mine here in South Carolina is a state representative, and he and I bounce ideas around, each other all the time. But when I was in Las Vegas for the Urgent Care Association, he sent me a text. He's like, "Hey, man, we've talked about doing a state urgent care appreciation day. I got a spot. It's going to be in 2 weeks." So I reached out to every single urgent care person in South Carolina who I knew, largely through my work with EB Medicine, and we put together in 2 weeks the first, as far as we know, it's the first ever in the country urgent care appreciation day at the State House. So we got a nice big formal plaque. I think there was 20 to 25 representatives from urgent cares in South Carolina, and it really was a great opportunity to get in front of lawmakers to share with them what we do, what is done in the urgent care setting. So, regardless if it's emergency medicine or urgent care or whatever, advocacy is really, really super important. And sometimes all it takes is a phone call or an email. Connect with your state representatives and have that discussion, and move things forward.
That you also have begun to focus on entrepreneurship more
Mhm.
broadly in emergency medicine,
Mhm.
and this is a specialty that has a bit of a bent toward, because of how we're wired and how we're trained and how we work. Um, Tell us a bit about what you're working on from an entrepreneurship standpoint.
Yeah. So, as Till can probably attest to, my gift and my skill set is networking and connecting people. There's nothing that brings me more joy than who I've encountered, and I know that they've got skills that can be mutually beneficial to each other. And just seeing the ripple effect, after those two people connect, is just it's incredible. I really enjoy doing that. Um, I'm pretty active on a handful of different social media, Facebook groups, physician oriented, entrepreneurial oriented. And one thing that I've noticed is that, it's not only are there a lot of people who are looking for the side gig or the side hustle or their entrepreneurial endeavor, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of people who are looking for something outside the walls of the emergency department, and the reasons for that are varied. Some people love emergency medicine, but they've got they've got more free time on their hands and they just want to do something else. Some people may not be overly content in their job and they're looking for something else, and some people are downright miserable and are looking for a way out. And through my connections over time and listening and watching, observing what all these people are going through, there's just some common threads and some common feelings and some messages that all these people have. So I'm kind of in the early stages of putting this together, but I'd sent a survey out to about 100 emergency physicians who I know who have started something. And the feedback that I've gotten on that survey has really been powerful, and trying to harness some of that, the content that I've received from them through that survey. But my goal is to put together some educational content. I did the laceration course, so familiar with making courses. So my goal is to put together some sort of an online course and also some community aspects where we can connect, collaborate, and establish some community to help each other out. Because if any of you are listening, if you've ever been through you know the entrepreneurial process, it's lonely, it's hard, and it's very isolating. So, having seen the power of community and connecting people, that's what I want to be able to provide. And bring people together. Nobody's going to steal your dang idea. You just got to open up a little bit. You got to ask for help, and you have to share what you're working on and what you need. Because this community, I mean, we're all ER docs. We want to help each other out. We're problem solvers. We get stuff done. We're given crap situations to deal with. And what do? We figure them out, and we figure them out really well. So the emergency physician is a person to be an entrepreneur, because we not only do we have the clinical stuff, we work well under stress, we multitask. Um, we problem solve. That's what we do. So we can identify things that need to be improved upon, whether it's in the business world or wherever it may be, wherever your niche is. But some things we don't do well with, and that's identifying what it is your side gig's going to be. Um, Securing the funding and some of the business aspects. So what I really want to do is bring in some of these subject matter experts on some of those fields and provide that information to people. So, again, it's still kind of in the early stages, but I'm excited to see what this may come to. I mean, quite honestly, Till, I mean that's why you and I are here. We connected over a dinner at ASAP in Philadelphia last year because of a mutual connection with EB Medicine. Had dinner together, and that's how things get started. People is have a connection. Send an email, have a phone call, because you never know what can happen from it.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to your skills as a networker and a connector. It's a fairly remarkable. And thank you for that. The as you know, medicine in general and emergency medicine in particular, providers of all types
Hmm.
face stresses either on the job or related either kind of acutely during a shift or broadly across career. This may be a question for an hour counseling session, but what are some key points you could provide to our classified who are feeling stresses, who are kind of
Hmm.
looking to get out of medicine to get out,
Yeah.
and how do they handle that?
Excellent question. And I think that all of us, it's safe to say, will go through those thoughts at some point in our career. Some people are going through it while they're in residency, which is heartbreaking. Some people are going through it within the first 5 years, some 10, 15 years down the road. Regardless, it's going to happen to everybody. You have to, you will go through these thoughts. So for me, just to give a little bit, a little personal example, and I really, want to be able to be open and honest with what I've gone through. So this summer marks 17 years post residency. So for 20 years, um, graduated medical school in 2004. So 20 years now. I turn 50 next week. I've got more years behind me than I do in front of me. And that's a very frightening thought, very humbling thought. So knowing that we're all going to go through these feelings and this process at some point with either burnout or clinical dissatisfaction, I think the best advice that I could give anybody is talk to somebody. Get a professional, even if it's a mentor from residency, that's great. The past 2 years, I have learned the value of investing in myself. I think as, physicians or, maybe medical people in general, we're a little bit on the cheap side. And, you see a price tag for something. Oh, no, I can't spend that money. But just to share a little bit with you, 2.5 years ago, my health was not doing all that great. Just, diet, lack of exercise in the middle of COVID, external stressors there. And I just reached a low point. I was like, man, this is miserable. I felt like I was short of breath when I was bending over to tie my shoes. I was like, I'm too young for this. One of my best friends had passed away the year prior, and really just some deep introspection. I was like, I'm not taking my health seriously, so I invested in a diet and exercise coach. It was a price tag associated with it, and that stung. That hurt. But guess what? It made me show up. It made me take it seriously. We don't value what we get for free, most of us, anyways. And when I had to swipe that credit card and sign up for a year-long coaching uh, program with this guy, I took it seriously, and he held me accountable and I held myself accountable. So I think learning a lesson early on is that it is important to invest in ourselves. I wish I would have done that 20 years ago. I really do. So fast forward a year, I lost 50 pounds. I've gained probably 10 or 15 of it back, but I'm in a good place. I know how to approach food and diet and exercise. I've got a trainer that comes to my house now. Just was working out with him 20 minutes prior to our discussion right now. When you invest in yourself, you get the return on investment. So about a year and a half ago, I was having some work-life balance issues, working on this on entrepreneurial stuff, having some stressors at work, and just kind of not satisfied, not happy with my job. And I started working with a physician coach named Rob Orman. If you could, I'd love for you to put his website. Rob is an emergency physician, probably practiced for, 20 plus years, and got his certification in professional coaching, executive coaching. Started working with Rob, and again, investing in myself. I had to swipe the credit card. That stung. But within 1 or 2 sessions of working with Rob, my mindset, I mean, I was going into it like, oh my gosh, I want to cut back to halftime clinically. I'm just not happy. I can't do this. Rob gave me some tools that really allowed me to work and really enjoy it again. So yeah, I did have to pay for his services as expected, but it gave me joy in my work again. And I didn't have to give up those shifts. So again, the return on investment came very quickly. So, anybody who's going through these types of things, I encourage you to get help. There's no shame in it. Reach out to a professional coach and let them help you navigate some of the issues that you're struggling with. I would encourage you all to, to listen to Rob Orman's podcast, which is called Stimulus. Hear what he's got to say. Book a call with him if you need it. And if not Rob, somebody else, but invest in yourself. You will not regret it.
That's great advice, I think, for personally and professionally for people in emergency medicine and probably in multiple other professions also. It's just not
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah, I think that, us as a profession have not done, I'm out of the academic game. I don't work with residents, so I'm not the best to say. I know that there has been more emphasis on resident wellness and all of that stuff, which I think is fantastic. I wish that there would be, and maybe there is, so maybe I'm speaking naively here, but, really introducing young physicians to the power of professional coaching at an early game. I mean, it should be like having a primary care doc, you know? Have a coach, meet with them twice a year, put the fires out before they start.
And that's a great goal and something that hopefully we'll be able to work together on
Yep,
through
absolutely.
and
Yeah, and the work that you're doing with all this stuff, Till, is incredibly exciting and just really has the potential to impact a lot of lives because, as we've discussed, when early stage emergency physicians are already looking for a way out, man, who's going to take care of us? It's frightening.
Well, thanks again for taking the time to share and really to share your personal story and how you got to where you are and how you're headed to where you're headed. So
Absolutely.
great
And
insights.
I
Uh,
I'm excited. And the one thing that I will ask from all of you, whoever's listening to this, if you're on LinkedIn, connect with me. Send me a request. Let me know, follow along what I'm doing. Let me know what I can do to help you. And let's connect. That's where the magic really starts to happen.
So LinkedIn is a great resource. So remind us again where to find you, the latest
Yeah,
love.
so LinkedIn is the best way. If you're interested in the laceration or the abscess course or anything from EB Medicine, their website is ebmedicine.net, and you can learn more about the stuff that I've worked on. But EB Medicine just a fantastic company with great resources. Um, as this platform that I'm working on gets developed, that'll be all on my LinkedIn profile. Yeah, so anything that I can do to help you out, let me know.
Great. Thanks again for taking the time to speak with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tel.
Right. And thank you for joining us in this installment of our EMcentric podcast series, The Shift Report. A special thanks to Dr. Patrick O'Malley for sharing his important insights. For more content, networking, and innovation in the world of emergency medicine, please visit emcentric.com.